Hello, Duffy again. And last time we talked about plantar fasciitis. Today we're going to talk about what pronation is and excessive pronation, problems that it causes, and then types of shoe wear that you can help resolve your problem with. So pronation is not a bad thing. You'll read, pronation control. All foots need to pronate. What happens when we're walking is when we land on our heel, our foot needs to pronate, where all the axes in the foot loosen up so your foot can now adapt to uneven terrain, going back to the days when we were barefoot. So you land, your foot pronates, adapts to the ground, but once you go foot flat and before your heel starts to come up, now your foot needs to go the other way and called supinate. And that's where your foot is locked in and becomes a rigid lever, because as your heel comes up and you push off, you want to be pushing off on a stiff, rigid foot. And what can happen with a lot of people, if they pronate too much, too late, or excessively, or very dramatically, it's very traumatic to the foot. And various things that will cause somebody to pronate too late would be a tight calf muscle. And I'll show my foot here also being somewhat flat-footed. That's my resting position. If I bring myself up into my neutral position, which is right here, you'll see that the ball of my foot right here pops up off the ground. So as you can see, I stand flat-footed. So what happens when I'm walking, I pronate too late, too rapidly in the gait cycle, and you'll actually develop what's called a little lateral whip to your heel. So people will see the outer portion of their heel wearing down, and they're thinking that they're landing on their foot and that they're supinating too much, when it's the other way around. They're pronating so rapidly that they're grinding the heel on the asphalt when they're running, and they wear out the outer surface there. Sometimes you'll find a little wear pivot mark in the middle here. The subtalar joint right here is made up of basically your talus, your calcaneus underneath it, and your tibia and fibula here. And some people can have a low subtalar axis, and that's just the way they're born. And what happens when they pronate too much and too late, they transfer most of the energy into their forefoot. So they're the people you're going to see that are going to have plantar fasciitis, they're going to have bunions, excessive calluses. Other people may have what's called a high subtalar axis. As you see, as I go from my neutral down to my resting, my knee doesn't move a lot. People with a high axis will transfer most of their energy up the leg because they're getting most of their motion at the talus. They're the ones that will have hip and knee and even back problems from being flat-footed. And when they go from their neutral to their resting position, you'll see a real dramatic rotation of the hip inwards like this. So the ultimate goal of the foot is to try to achieve foot flat. So if somebody's pronating too much or too late, then we try to build up the medial arch here, sometimes even a little bit of posting underneath the forefoot. As flat-footed as I am, I've had custom orthotics made in the past, and I can get by pretty much with just over-the-counter ones, like what we sell here. These are raw quartz, which I tell a lot of people to go into. It has a decent structure to it, and it's rigid, but they didn't put any arch inside, so I used the Spenco orthotics inside for these shoes, and I'm fine. Typically, New Balance is what I tell most people to go into. I find most New Balance shoes to have decent control and structure for people, especially those who need structure and control. Push on the front of the shoe, you should flex up at the ball of the foot. Now these are 3 years old and have a lot of miles from running, so they're shot and I need to get a new pair. Push here, that's where you should see the flex of the toe. You take a pair of garbage Nikes like these and push in, and it's almost like a slipper. I got these shoes, these I only wear to the gym. I would never wear these anywhere else because they would kill me. There's no structure, there's no control to these whatsoever. Take a good shoe, you won't have a lot of capability of rotating it that way. When you look on the back of the shoe, you'll see gray foam on the inside. That's much harder, denser foam than the white, and that also is to help control the pronation. New Balance typically puts a decent arch inside, so with New Balance shoes, I really don't have to go buy anything to put in these, and once my feet start to bother me, that's the time just to go get a new pair of shoes. Like I said in the last video, most of the time women like soft, supple shoes, Keds, Easy Spirits, things like that, and they're the ones that typically have this complete lack of control. So they're the ones that will most likely come in, probably 10 to 15 females for every male with plantar fasciitis and a lot of foot-related problems, including bunions and things like that. So that's just a brief little tutorial on shoes and what pronation is and how to avoid it. Thanks.